Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sri Mulyana Amiruddin. I'm from English Education Class A 2019 from State University of Makassar. So in today I would like to present about methodical history of language teaching by Douglas Brown. This book is a second edition. Before we discuss further about the methodical history of language teaching, we must know some terms like method, approach, curriculum, and technique. So the first one is method. Method was described as an overall planned systematic presentations of language based upon a selected approach. And the second one is approach. Approach is theoretical, well-informed positions and beliefs about the nature of language learning and applicability of both pedagogical settings. The third one is curriculum. Curriculum is designed for carrying out a particular language program. And the last one is technique. So technique is the specific activities. It will be exercises, activities or tasks that used in the language classroom to realizing lesson objectives. Next is changing winds and shifting sands. So according to Albert McQuaid in 1975, he saw changing winds and shifting sands as a cyclical pattern in which a new method emerged about every quarter of a century. The first method is the grammar translation method. In the 19th century, the classical method came to be known as the grammar translation method. There was little to distinguish our grammar translation for what had gone on in foreign language classroom for centuries beyond a focus on grammatical rules as the basis for translating from the second to the native language. There are the major characteristics of grammar translations. The first one is classes are taught in the mother tongue. And the second one is much vocabulary is taught in the form of lists of isolated words. The next is long, elaborate explanations of the intricacies of grammar are given, and the next is grammar provides the rules of putting words together, and instruction often focuses on the form and inflection of words. The next is a reading is of difficult classical text is begun early. And the next is little attention is paid to the content of texts, which are treated as exercises in grammatical analysis. The next one is often the only drills are exercises in translating disconnected sentences from the target language into the mother tongue. And the last one is little or no attention is given to pronunciation. Next is typical techniques. There are some typical techniques closely associated with the grammar translation method. The first one is memorization. In memorization, students are given a list of target language vocabulary words and their native language equivalents and are asked to memorize them. And the second one is fill the blanks. Fill in the blanks, students are given a series of sentences with words that are missing. They fill in the blanks with new vocabulary items or with items of a particular grammar type, such as prepositions or verbs, and it with different tenses. And the third one is composition. Composition, the teacher gives the students a topic to write about in the target language. The topic is based upon some aspect of the reading passage of the lessons. And the next is synonyms and antonyms. In synonyms and antonyms, students are given one set of words and asked to find antonyms in the reading passage. Students could also be asked to find synonyms for a particular set of words. The last one is reading comprehension. Reading comprehension in this technique, students answer questions in the target language based on their understanding of the reading passage. The questions are sequenced so that the first group of questions asks for information contained within the reading passage. Next is Gwyn and the series method. Language learning is primarily a matter of transforming perception into conception. And the series method was a method that tagged learners directly without translation and conceptually without grammatical rules and explanations, a series of connected sentences that are easy to perceive. Next slide is the direct method. According to Rickard and Rogers in 1986 summarized the principle of the direct method. The first one is classroom instruction was conducted exclusively in the target language. And the second one is only everyday vocabulary and sentences were taught. And the third one is oral communication skills were built up in a carefully threaded progressions organized around question and answer exchange between teacher and students in small intensive class. The fourth one is grammar was taught inductively. The fifth one is new teaching points were taught through modeling and practice. And the sixth one is concrete vocabulary was taught through demonstration, objects, and pictures. Abstract vocabulary was taught by association of ideas. And seventh one is both speech and listening comprehension were taught. And the last one is correct pronunciation and grammar were emphasized. Next is the audiolingual method. The characteristics of the audiolingual method are the first one is new material is present in dialogue form, and the second one is there is independence on mimicry, memorization of set phrase, and overlearning. The next is structures are sequenced by means of constructive analysis and taught one at a time. And the next is structural patterns are taught using repetitive drills. The next is there is a little or no grammatical explanation. Grammar is taught by inductive analogy rather than by deductive explanation. Next is vocabulary is strictly limited and learned in context. Next is there is much use of tapes, language labs, and visual aids. And the next is great importance is attached to pronunciation. Next is very little use of the mother tongue by teacher is permitted. And the next one is successful response are immediately reinforced. And the next is there is a great effort to get students to produce error-free utterances. And the last one is there is a tendency to manipulate language and disregard content. Next slide is cognitive code learning. So cognitive code learning was not a method as it was an approach that emphasized a conscious awareness of rules and their application to second language learning. It was a reaction to the strictly behavioristic practice of the audiolingual method, and ironically a return to some of the practices of grammar translation. Next is designer of methods of the spirited in 1970s. The first one is community language learning. Carlos Curran in 1972 created an effectively based method that called the counseling learning. Learners in classroom not regarded as a class but as a group in need of certain therapy and counseling. The social dynamics of such a group were of primary importance. The second one is Suggestopedia. Suggestopedia was derived by George Lazarev in 1979. He believed that the human brain could process the great quantities of material if given the right conditions for learning, which are a state of relaxation and giving over of control to the teacher. The next one is the silent way. The silent way. The silent way was found by Caleb Gateno, who interested in a humanistic approach to education. The silent way was characterized by a problem-solving approach to education. Next is total physical response. James Asser in 1977 suggests that children in learning their first language appear to do a lot listening before they speak, and that their listening is accompanied by physical response. And the last one is the natural approach. Steve Carson in 1982 and 1997. There are 3 steps in the natural approach. The first one is the reproduction stage is the development of listening skills, and the second one is the early production stage is usually marked with errors as the student struggles with language, and the last one is the last stage is one of extending production into longer stretches of discourse involving more complete games, role plays, discussion, and so forth. Next slide is functional syllabuses. According to Brown in 1999, the following functions are covered in the first several lessons of an advanced beginner's book. So, there are functional syllabuses. The first one is introduction self and other people. The second one is exchange personal information. The third one is asking how to spell someone's name. The fourth one is giving comments. The fifth one is apologizing and thanking. And the next is identifying and describing people. And the last one is asking for information. I think that's all for me, and I hope it will be useful for you, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.